Hey everybody, we're going to take a look at something called artistic displacement, and we're going to do images that look like this and like this and two more, one like that and another one like this. And I got the idea from an old book a friend got me from a used bookstore. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. All right, let's jump into today's program. And this idea came to me as a result of this book a friend of mine got me from a used bookstore. When she gave this to me, I was really fascinated because most of the stuff in there, this was published by Time Life magazine back in 1971. And a lot of photos in there are from the 50s, 60s, and 70 to 71. And there's a chapter in there, I had to write down, the chapter is called Challenging the Traditions. And let me share with you what influenced me. And it's this image right here. And what I saw there was displacement. This is from negatives, but he made it into large print. And it just got me thinking, I wonder if I could do something similar to this, but using Photoshop to do some creative way of displaying our artwork, whether it's a photograph, maybe you did a painting technique or something in Photoshop, or a black and white photo. And it doesn't matter if it's a still life, landscape, architectural shots, boudoir, doesn't matter what category. This is really a cool thing. Now, I want to mention this. If you are brand new to Photoshop, fairly new, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, you can do this. What I want you to do is sit back, chill out. In fact, everybody should do the same thing. Watch the entire video to the end, and then go back and take what I call, well, I shouldn't say what I would call, this comes from a movie. If anybody saw a movie called What About Bill, that had Bill Murray in it, and it had Richard Dreyfuss, and he was playing this psychologist who wrote a book called Baby Steps. And my point is, if you just take simple baby steps, like start with a blank document, pause the video, follow what I did. Number two, we're going to drop in some guidelines. So watch that, stop it, and then drop in the guidelines. So just take little baby steps. You will be able to do this. I'm going to throw some bonuses in at the end of this video, but I want to talk about the inspiration I got with that image I just shared with you. And remember, I always talk about something I was taught years ago, even before photography, and it's sort of a life skill, and that is inspiration really is not inspiration unless you take action on the inspiration. If you don't take action on the inspiration, guess what? You have just been entertained. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's take a look. Let's dive right into Photoshop and build these projects. And if you stick to the end, there's three things I wrote down that I'm going to do. Number one, we're going to create a template so you can drop in your images and within seconds get the result that you want. But you might want to modify that template toward the end. So I'm going to give you some ideas on modifying the template and ideas on redesigning the templates and some things to think about. All right, are we ready? Let's jump into Photoshop. All right, so here in Photoshop, if you're fairly new to it, we're going to start with a new document. And what you can do is you can do Control-N, like a Nancy on a PC, Command-N on a Mac, or just simply go to the File drop-down menu right here on Photoshop and just choose New. And I want you to select Default Photoshop Size, which should be, and if it's not for some reason, the width here should be 7 inches, the height is 5 inches, and the resolution is 300. I'm going to click on Create. So that drops in our starting point. And the next thing we're going to do is drop in some guidelines. So to activate our guidelines, we go to View drop-down menu, come all the way down. Now, before we go to guidelines, make sure Snap is activated. By default, it should be. And then you come down to Guides right here and come down to New Guide Layout. Now, when the dialog box opens up, you're not going to have the same settings. It remembered my settings from last time. Here's what I want you to do. Under columns here, make sure you put in the number 7. I want 7 columns on this 7-inch wide document, which means each column will be 1 inch. Deactivate rows. We don't want any rows. So by default, your rows will be activated. Just turn that off. And also at margins, make sure that's turned off, because by default, it's probably turned on. So just turn that off. We don't need that. When you're done, make sure it looks like this. Very simple. And you click on OK. All right. Little baby steps right here. Okay. Now what I want to do is come over here to my toolbox and make sure you choose this, the rectangle marquee tool. And here's the trick. When you click and drag, now you have to carefully go to the upper left-hand corner of this first column, click and drag. That's why snap to guidelines is really important to have on, so it helps you get that in there. When you let go, I'm going to skip that column next to it and go to the other column. I have to hold the Shift key down and not let go. If I forget to hold the Shift key down, the last column I just did will not be selected. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down, go to the upper left-hand corner to this column, click and drag to drop that in. Just take your time. Shift key still activated. Skip a column. Let's go to the next one. Click and drag. Come down. And Shift key is still there. Go to the last column, click and drag. And again, for some reason, if you just goofed up, Control D on a PC, Command D will deselect your active selections and then go back and redo it. Now that I have that selected, let's make sure our layers panel is opened up. I pull mine out over here so we can see it. So it's floating here, but your layers panel should be over here. You could click and drag it out if you want. If it's not activated, which it should be, but if not, you go to Windows drop-down menu, and about halfway down, you'll see the category called Layers. Come down to the very bottom of the Layers panel, grab what I call the Oreo cookie dipped in milk. Well, I didn't call it that, but Adobe called it that years ago as a funny joke, so I thought that was pretty cute. So I always call it the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, and I'm just going to go here and choose solid color. Now, when I do this, it doesn't matter if the color's gray or green or red. I just doing it for black for visuals for us. And I'm going to click on OK to accept that. Okay, so that's what we got as a start. Very easy. To finish the step off, that's all I'm going to go is back to View, drop-down menu here. And I'm going to come down to Guides, and I'm just going to choose to clear the guides. I don't need them anymore. Okay, so very, very simple. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on this layer right here. Make sure that's your active one. And I'm going to do Control J on a PC, Command J on a Mac. What I just did was duplicated that layer. Now, just to show you visually what's going to happen here, I'm going to turn off this one and make sure I'm on this one right here. I'm going to click right here. And this is called a mask. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to do Control I or Command I on a Mac. And what I'm doing is inverting that. So you can see how everything changed. And now, instead of the outside ones and every other one here was black, it's reversed. Okay, so if I activate the bottom one, now we got solid black. So hopefully that makes sense right there. I'm going to hide the very top one, and we're going to get ready to drop in an image. So what I'm going to do is pause right here to make sure that you have these steps done, and then we'll continue. Okay, now to continue. And again, I just turned this off for visual, the very top one. I'm going to be working on this one. So this one's activated right here by clicking on it. And what I want to do is go find an image. Now, what you want to do is make sure you have an image to work with. So just find some image, just simple JPEG image, any kind of image you want to work with here. And what we're going to do is go to the File drop-down menu, choose, almost halfway down, Place Embedded. When the dialog box opens up, navigate to the folder that has your image. Now, I'm just going to use one of these images I've used in the past, as basic landscape one. I'm going to click on Place right here, and it will place it above the layer I had selected. Now, what I want to do is fill in the entire layer behind it. So I don't have to, if I just go to a corner here, I'm going to click and drag to make this a little bit bigger. go in the center there, move it around. And I just want to make sure I'm filling everything in. So it doesn't matter. I don't need to fill it in perfect, but I'm going to move this to the left a little bit because I'd like to have that building there, that little hut or whatever it is, a little bit more off-centered right there. And then enter on my keyboard to select it. Now, when you choose from the file drop-down and you place embedded, that image comes in as a smart object right here. You can see the symbol right there. Okay, so here's what I want you to do on this now. I want you to duplicate this by doing Control-J or Command-J on a Mac. This is really important. What I don't want you to do, which I catch some people doing, and that is they'll right mouse click and they'll go, oh, new smart object via copy. No, don't use that. Let me explain why. But basically, I'm going to demo that to you, why you don't want to do that. If I just do, again, Control-J, Command-J on a Mac, these automatically are linked together. If I did that via copy, they would not be linked. And I'll explain why this is important. So Control-J or Command-J on a Mac to duplicate this layer. And now what I'm going to do here, let's hide that one temporarily. This one, the very first one we did, I'm going to go to in between these two layers by holding the Alt key down or Option on a Mac, and you'll see the icon change to a symbol like this with the arrow pointing down. If I click on that right there, let me go between by holding that Alt key down, again, Option on a Mac. This is called a clipping mask. I clipped that to the layer below. Okay. Another way of doing it would be a right mouse click. So I'll do that on the next layer here, but I'm going to activate this one and this one. So these two are activated. I'm going to take this one right here and I'm going to click and drag it above that layer right here. Okay. So a different way I need to clip this to this one right here. A different way of doing it is right mouse click. And I'm just going to choose, you'll see, oh, let's see where we're at. So I'm so used to doing the shortcut. Oh, there he is at the very bottom, create clipping mask. Click on that, and that's just another way of clipping it. Now, it doesn't look like anything's happening, but because of the layer below, but watch this. Control-T, Command-T on a Mac, that activates our free transform tool. And I'm going to grab one of the corners here, and I'm just going to click and drag it in. And this is a judgment call by you on how small you want to make this and how you want to line this up. This is your visual design. There's no right or wrong on this. Is what you think aesthetically looks pleasing in the design. So I'm going to do that right there and then enter on the keyboard to accept that. Okay, very, very simple to do. Now, the very last thing is, if you don't like these black areas to be seen, maybe you want a different color. Well, what you could do is come over here and actually double click on this and change the color to be something else in the color picker, maybe something in a blue area. And this is totally optional. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it alone. But again, it's just your design choice right there. It's not right or wrong. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer that has that image. Again, Control-J, Command-J on a Mac. I duplicated that. I'm going to take this and drop it below right here. So it's clipped right there, just fine. And then what I'm going to do is go back. Let's see, I think I want to take the very top one, Control-T. No, not that one. I'm sorry. Okay, having those senior moments. Stay in this one right here. I'm sorry, Control-T, Command-T on a Mac. And what I want to do is bring this up. Let me slide this up a little bit. So I'm just making this bigger. So see what it's doing? Instead of filling colors right there, I'm filling it with part of the image. And again, move that around with the Move tool to get the look that you want. There's no right or wrong on this. It's whatever you want it to be. And then when you're satisfied, enter on the keyboard. Let me make this a little bit smaller so we can see that. Okay, so there is our design so far. Now, if you want to modify this a little bit, try this. I'm going to come down to this layer right here. And with that selected, I'm going to come down to Effects. So come down to the bottom of layers, choose Add a Layer Style. There's a little effects there. And I'm going to choose Inner Shadow. And right here, you could adjust the opacity, the color. Maybe I want to make this darker, so I'm going to make this black right there, so that really stands out. And you could play with the opacity here. Let me over-exaggerate that so we can see that. The distance, you can move the sliders to get the look that you want. Okay, so I'm just, again, playing with this. Maybe something like that. Let's soften that up a little bit, and let's pull that opacity down. Okay, so now when I click on OK to accept that, you can see the inner glow there. And again, if you want to do it on this layer right there, you could do the same thing or try something else. It doesn't have to be what I just did. The point is that get in there and experiment with that. So an example to save time, if I want that same inner shadow, here's what I would do. I'm on this layer here. Here's where my effects are at. If I hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, and just carefully click and drag up to the next layer, I just copy that. So now if I turn this on and off, you can see it over there. And if I come down here, you can see it over there. Okay, so these are your design choices. And you're not limited to what I just did there. You might want to try some other things, blending modes. I'll talk about that toward the end. Now, here's a really cool thing. Now that we have this done, let's say I'm finished, I want to convert this to a template because I want to use this with other images, and I want to be able to drop this in really fast and not have to redo this over and over again. So what I'm going to do is go to this layer right here. I'm going to double click to open up that Smart Object layer. I'm going to do Control A, Command A to Mac, just a fast way of selecting. Duh, Steve, it's under Select drop-down menu. It just came back to me. The pleasures of being AARP certified. You know what that means. You're well over 50 years old, okay? So that's another way of doing it, Select All. And then what I'm going to do, I'm looking at my chip colors here at the very bottom of my toolbar, and I see white is on the bottom. So if I just do Control Delete, Command Delete on a Mac, I just filled it in with that white color. Want to get rid of the selection, so Control D or Command D to deselect it. And again, select drop-down menu, you'll find deselect right there. Okay, I remember that one. Okay, so now I'm going to close out of this right there. Save it, yes. And here's what I got. See what happened? I changed the image to be white there, and look what it did to the other ones. Because all those Smart Object layers are connected. And that's what was important about doing Control J or Command J on a Mac to duplicate that. You don't want to go to right mouse click, which some people do, and they think, oh, I just choose New Smart Object via Copy. You only use that if you don't want something to be linked to each other. You want it to be independent of the other Smart Object layers. I want these to be linked together, so that's why we just do the shortcut Control J or Command J on the Mac. Okay, so with that done, I want to save this as a template. But before I do that, I'm going to come over here and double click and type in place image here, something descriptive. And then when I'm done, oops, I'm going to right mouse click right here and just choose red. So that stands out. It's just, okay, this is where I start, where I place an image there, and that's selected. Now what I'm going to do is simply go to File drop-down menu, Save As, give it a name. So I'm going to call it, I'll just call this, artistic. I already have one that I made, but artistic displacement, DISP-1. And I want to make sure that when I do this, it's .psdt. Okay, it's the T that's going to make this as a template. Save it where you want to save it. It's going to be in my sample image folder. So I click on Save, click on OK to accept that. And now I close out of this. Don't need this anymore. Okay, so now let's pause a little bit and we'll continue on in Photoshop. Okay, now that we actually save this as a template format, here we go. I'm just going to double click on my workspace. It's just a fast way of getting the open dialog box. Navigate to where the template is that we saved. So this is what I just did. Ooh, I called it CISP-1. I'm sorry. Let me just rename that. It's going to bug me. So I'm going to rename that, and let's just carefully go in there. All right, Steve, you made a mistake on that one. Okay, so now artistic displacement. I'm just going to highlight that. You could double click on it or highlight it and click on open. It doesn't matter. And then this is what we just created. And let's take a look at this for a moment. There we are on the layer that's marked red there just for visuals. And it says place image here. Okay, so I'm going to go to file. And by the way, notice that here it's untitled. This hasn't been saved. For new people, because I created a template, if I goof up on this right now, I can trash this. Even if I saved it, it forces me to save it as a normal PSD file. It did not affect my template at all. Okay, so I'm going to go to File drop-down menu here. But before I do that, let's go here and double click on this to open this up. So when I do this, it should open this up on another tab. And then I'm going to go to File, come down to Place Embedded, right here in the drop-down menu, almost halfway down. Navigate to find the image. So I'm going to choose a different one. I already did this one, so let's do a different one right there. Click on Place. Okay. Obviously, it's not filling in everything, so I'm going to do Control-T. Actually, you don't have to. It's already right there. I'm going to select that, make it bigger. Let me resize this a bit so we can see this. I want to make this really big, and what I want to do, oops, sorry about that. Make this really big, and I'm going to move the waterfall maybe to the left a little bit. I don't want to say dead center. Okay, this is just my design. You choose what you want to do. Enter on the keyboard to accept that. Now, what I like to do is, just to be on the safe side, that layer selected, hold the Shift key down, select the layer below that right there. Control E or Command E. I just made that into a single layer right there. And then I'm going to close out of that tab. It's going to ask me, do you want to save this? Yes. And that should drop it right in. And there we go. Within seconds after you drop it into the template, there you go. Now you could go and change the, by clicking on, say, this one right here, resizing it, moving these around. It's not etched in stone that you have to have it like that. And then the other thing is, play with your inner glows if you want to add that, turn it on and off, or add some other effects. Strictly up to you. Hopefully this makes sense. So the point is, what I wanted to give you at the end is, number one, consider making this into a template. Number two, play around with different effects by going to the different layers here where we have these bars and play with that, okay, to come up with a different look. In fact, let me do this right now. I'm going to go just to show you, just to be doing something different. I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to choose a Color Overlay. And then I'm just going to choose maybe something in let's go in the green area maybe. And again, I'm just sort of goofing around. And then this is the overlay. I can change blending modes, like lighten, and bring that up or down. Okay, so you can actually change and modify things based on your design. It's not right or wrong. It's your creativity. You need to go for that. So look at the color overlay. Look what I did. Okay, so just tweaking that a little bit. Now, the other thing to do is consider, notice I designed this, and each column was 1 inch wide. Well, why don't you do something like, let's create another one, and just to save time, I did this. So let me open up this one, and I made each column a 1/2 inch wide and did the same concept right there. So that way, when I come over here, double click, opens up that in a new tab. I go to File drop-down menu, come down to Place Embedded. Let's grab a different image. Here's a still life. Maybe you want it in black and white or whatever. I mean, go ahead and change that. It filled in the whole thing. I'm going to leave that alone right now. Just enter on the keyboard. So if it came in smaller, I would make that bigger and again, move that around. Close out of this. By the way, if you're learning anything, if you can do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, which is at least once a week, you'll get notified on that. Make sure I choose yes to update this. Whoops, I forgot to do something, so let me cancel that. I got to do this. Steve, you made a mistake. Select both layers. Again, hold the Shift key down, multi-select both. Control E, Command E on a Mac, so that flattens it down. That's important. Close out of that. Choose yes. Let that render out. And bam, there we go. And again, you could play with moving the images on these different layers to get the look that you want. And again, add, if you go to the layer over here, add some other effects if you wish. So hopefully you learned something and you stay to the end. And again, I just want you to watch this and just chill out, have a drink or so, just relax, and then go back, find one of your images you'd like to work with. Make sure it's a simple JPEG. Take your time, pause the video, do the steps, run the video a little bit, pause, do the steps I just did till you get to the end. Then it's up to you. Again, create that template for yourself, maybe modify it, go for it. I think this is pretty cool. And again, just an example of being inspired by that book and what that person did from film, right? So I like this. It's fun. It's just a different way of displaying our photography. All right. So with that out of the way, best of luck with this. Until next time, see ya.